Hey guys, Mega Man NG here. We're back with another Gen 6 Wi-Fi battle, and today I am taking on Anthony. And judging by the looks of his team, this is going to prove to be a very interesting challenge indeed. I don't know if he has a YouTube channel per se, though if he does, be sure to let me know in the comments and I'll make sure to update right away. So let's get this show on the road. I start off with my trusted Ferrothorn, and he on the other hand starts off with Sceptile. Both of us starting to fight off with grass types. But he decides to just go straight for the Drain Punch, and the Drain Punch does about 50 damage. However, sadly he suffers damage from Iron Barbs and Rocky Helmet. Note to my opponents, if you're up against a Ferrothorn, you may want to try using like a special attack, because a physical attack is basically asking yourself for getting yourself beaten. And he actually does so, and he does an Earthquake, which does do like normal damage, but not enough. So I go for the Gyro Ball, and the Gyro Ball does a lot of damage, since Sceptiles are known to be very fast and my Ferrothorn is slow, so I'm able to withstand it and deliver damage right back. He sends in now his Rhyperior, and that Rhyperior is big and huge. Like my Ferrothorn, he also sets up the rocks, and the rocks are going to be big trouble. So I decide instead to go for a Gyro Ball, since Steel type is super effective. However, it didn't work, and I even do get a crit. And the crit didn't really matter. So he instead now goes for a Hammer Arm, and the Hammer Arm does a load of damage. Sadly, however, it did not kill my Ferrothorn, and I was literally flabbergasted. It actually survived. I'm pretty impressed. And he actually recovers from Shell Bell. Looks like, believe it or not, this thing actually has Shell Bell. I decided to just go for a Leech Seed just to heal up. And the Leech Seed does do it. I do get some health back, but I don't think it's going to be enough because my Ferrothorn's going to get his butt kicked. Made worse by the fact that since the rocks are now set up on my end, I got to watch out. So I decide to switch in and send in my Chansey, since my Chansey's more likely to withstand anything he throws at it. He goes for a Hammer Arm and misses, and that's just kind of sad because if it did hit, it would have sucked. And the Leech Seed gets my Chansey's health around 330, only restore like 23. I go for a Seismic Toss, and the Seismic Toss does take down Rhyperior, 50 damage. I am relieved at that, though if the Hammer Arm did hit, it would have hurt. And he sends in another Grass type, Tangrowth, and this Tangrowth's pretty shiny. That's a lot of green right there, and I'm not talking about money jokes or anything. And I go for a Seismic Toss. The Seismic Toss does about like 50 or so damage, and he gets a Sleep Powder, and even though it gets put me to sleep, I could just basically switch and use Natural Cure to heal it. If Chansey didn't have Natural Cure, then I would have had a big problem. But I'm happy it did. And I decided to make a switch, making Natural Cure kick in and make it be fully healed. I send in my Arcanine, who has never let me down in battle. Ever. Never does. And despite suffering like Stealth Rock damage, he goes for a knockoff which does a load of damage but removes my Life Orb. I don't know if it's a saving grace or anything, but to tell you the truth, it really wasn't much. I go for a Crunch, and the Crunch, due to the Life Orb not being on it, suffers less damage. He goes instead now for a Leech Seed, and he's going to try like draining my health down little by little. He also has Leftovers, which makes health recovery a lot more efficient. So Leftovers kicks in, and then followed by Leech Seed. I'm down to about 50 health. I could just go for like a Flare Blitz and just take it down at the cost of Arcanine. That would have worked, but I decided instead to go for a Morning Sun because the Morning Sun helps me heal up. That and I need to keep it alive. He goes now for another knockoff, and the knockoff does about 40 damage. Man, that Tangrowth's going to be one hell of a punishment, I assure you. Plus with the Leech Seed, I think it could just basically stall it out until it dies. I gotta do something fast, and my mind was thinking, have to use the Flare Blitz, and I do use the Flare Blitz. But even without the Life Orb damage, I still wasn't able to kill it. I'm like, what? I freaked out that it actually did survive, and it got the burn, and the burn surprisingly did not kill it. I am like, seriously, what the hell? Not that it matters though, because my Arcanine goes down due to damage from Leech Seed. It was sapped by Leech Seed and taken down. That is sad. Though, to be fair, it was kind of hilarious, as Tangrowth goes down too. It's down due to damage from its burn. A double KO, believe it or not. So I now send in Electivire, and I need to get myself an advantage and fast. He, meanwhile, sends in Shiny Metagross. No, Shiny Metagrosses do not eat Ice Punches for breakfast. They lose their blue complexion that way. And despite me suffering some Stealth Rocks on both ends, I go in for an Earthquake, and the Earthquake does a load of damage, but it didn't kill it. I get the crit, which I'm lucky. However, sadly, he also goes for an Earthquake. It's a Quake Fest, and I get taken down. That sucks. I gotta figure out something fast. At least he doesn't have like stuff like Life Orb and stuff like that, so at least that's a safe bet. I go into Ferrothorn, mostly just to die, because since he doesn't have any attacks that like dish it out directly, Earthquake is probably his safest option. And to be fair, it is a safe option, and please don't mind the noise that's going on right now at the time of this recording. There's an ice cream truck outside, and since with spring coming and everything, it's like these guys are popping in more often. And I send in Greninja, he goes for a Bullet Punch, and the Bullet Punch doesn't do much. I go for a Dark Pulse, switching into a Dark type, since Metagross is part Psychic, and I dish out damage, which I am pretty relieved. However, sadly, that will not matter much because he sends in Marica, the Shiny Braviary. I always prefer regular over Shiny, because Red's a lot better. I go instead now for another Dark Pulse, and the Dark Pulse does like more than half. He surprisingly goes for a Brave Bird, and the Brave Bird, plus the fact that Braviary's high attack takes down my Greninja. Sadly, that's not going to make much difference due to recoil damage. It survives, quite frankly. If Braviary had Defog instead, the Defog would have literally turned the tide of the battle completely. He instead decides to go for a Superpower. Okay, so I gotta deal with a Braviary that not only has Brave Bird, but also Superpower. This opponent is gonna be worth my time. However, I go for a Seismic Toss, which takes down Braviary. Though I have to admit, the Superpower on Braviary was kind of good. It really was. Though, now I gotta find a way to get myself healed up and fast. So he now sends in Frostlass, and it's surprising to see a Frostlass here in battle. He unleashes an Ice Beam, and the Ice Beam sadly does not kill it. I go instead for a Toxic. I should have went instead for the Soft Whirl to heal up, and that is my mistake. A mistake that may cost me greatly if I ended up continuing to be more careless. So I make a switch because I know full well Chansey will end up dying anyway, and I send in my Alakazam, and I know that the Frostlass is part Ghost. So hopefully maybe like a Shadow Ball or a Signal Beam that could work. It withstands the Ice Beam rather efficiently, and the poison damage kicks in, dealing more. So now I can just go in with a Stab Psychic and finish the job, but it turns out it didn't happen because this thing is like, it's faster than my Alakazam. It could be Choice Scarf. It took down my Alakazam with ease. Oh man, not that it matters because the poison damage continues to build up more and more. So I'm down to my last Pokemon, which is Chansey, and surprisingly, this ends up being my downfall as it is. I should have went to Soft Boil, and that costed me big. That personally was my mistake, and I blame myself for it. Yeah, it sucks that I lost, but who cares? I enjoyed it. Anthony, thank you so much for the Wi-Fi battle. Your team is actually pretty interesting. The Braviary was the most surprising thing of all, and the best part of the battle. I really did enjoy it. I hope you guys did too, and if you did, please hit that like button. It does mean a lot to me, and I'll see you guys next time for more Pokemon Gen 6 Wi-Fi battles. Peace.